Since that new Zelda's come out, I figured I'd do something big. Intros are hard, man. But before we go any further, just some housekeeping. This model is made by xenonjibei. I think he just goes by Xenon. It's over on Thingiverse. I printed it at 0.16 layer height with PLA, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. I did take a lot of support, like a lot. Anyway, let's start by putting some things together, starting with the crossguard wings. Nothing crazy here, just some super glue. It was a little warped and there were some print issues, but that's kind of the whole theme of this video, is there's been some issues. Take, for example, the wrapping that's supposed to go around the grip. My printer really struggled with this. I know the cooling's not great. I've been needing to replace the fans, but it still struggled really badly. So I'm going to just try and fill it and hope for the best. Should be okay. But it does mean that this project's going to be way harder than it needs to be. And even on the bottom of the pommel, it was supposed to be supported because I was like, there's no way with how my fans are. And it still just is a nasty, gnarly mess. Now it should fill in pretty easy because it's easy to get to and I shouldn't have any issues. But anyway, once I've joined the hilt permanently, let's kind of go into the process of making some of these issues disappear. As I've already kind of shown with the pommel, I use some Tamiya putty, but I'll also be using some epoxy Sculpit. I've talked about it before, but it's similar to like Milliput, except its adhesion properties are a little bit less. It is a little bit easier to sand, so trade-offs. I won't bore you with the details of, me filling it in, sanding it, blah, 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 blah. Instead, here's some B-roll of it just on a turntable spinning around. And so here's where things go awry. I was trying to perfect that filling mix that I worked on in the prior video using some drywall hot mix, some polyacrylic in gloss, and then just some water. So what was happening was the polyacrylic and then the hot mix, those two mix and they do something really weird. I don't know what chemical reaction's going on, but it actually bubbles and creates this really frothy mix that just will not spray. It's probably not even good even if it could spray. And so for a change of pace, I grabbed some Autoborn sealer and clear, added some, I think, candy H2O just for color, just to see what would happen. And it's like, it lays down great. I mean, I still love this stuff, but then you get it just to shrink back to the layer lines and show them even more pronounced. And it's like, what's the point of that? Keeping with the drywall mix, I even tried, instead of using polyacrylic, I had some Mecha primer in black. I mean, that stuff actually does work, like it doesn't cause a reaction, but like, I've had issues with this stuff before, and I don't know why I even thought, hey, this is a great idea. I'd offer to say I tried everything, but in reality, no, I didn't. Back in the day, back when I was making my 1-to-1 scale of an MG42, I saw someone on the YouTubes do a similar filler to like how my restrictions are, no enamels or anything. And he used, it was Future's furniture polish, some wood filler, and then like some water. And I remember it worked well, and then it settled out way too fast. So I figured I'd try it. No, my wood filler is actually dried out and kind of nasty, but it actually still works somehow. So I took that and mixed it in a ratio of about 1 part the wood filler, 1 part water, to then 2 parts polyacrylic. And that polyacrylic, I think, is kind of what made it work a little bit better for me. It held it in more suspension, as well as I made smaller batches. And after thoroughly mixing the wood filler, it does tend to clump. It sprays quite well. I mean, it's not like the most amazing miracle filler, but it'll totally work in a pinch, and it's great to keep in the toolbox. Now, of course, the damage had already been done to the hilt. Given everything that I've sprayed so far, all the various solids that I've tried to push through my airbrush, it was just wrinkly, not wrinkly, it was like bumpy, worse than like orange skin. It was nasty, gnarly, which meant I needed to sand. That one thing I've been trying to avoid as much as possible this entire time. And the main areas of concern, I mean, the actual crossguard wasn't too bad, or at least was easier to sand. It was mainly the hilt. So I did spend probably a couple hours just going through and truing up, adding material, sanding it off, all of those individual wrappings. And eventually I was able to spray some Autoborn Sealer in gray, just to give it that final, hey, this is a good starting point, let's see where we go. Which I wasn't really happy with, so I decided to add a little bit more gloss to it and keep going. And that's kind of where the funky, crazy colors came in to kind of just ruin anybody's perspective of it. I mean, personally, I thought it looked really cool, the way the red below and then some of that brass tones on top, all the metallics, looks so cool. Totally not right for what it is, but it looks so cool. But after one more final, just kind of quick restart black layer, we can actually finally get to the real color. So I'm going to be using some Vallejo metallic blue. It's actually almost perfect on its own, which is amazing for me because I don't have to do any mixing. Which looks good, but I was like, let me take this to the next level. Let me see what happens if I grab some Createx 4050, that's gloss, and just make it really pop. Which personally, for a ruined sword, I think it looks really good. And while I was there, I added the gold detail work as well as the green on the wrapping. Of course, this whole time I've been focused on the hilt. What about the actual blade section itself? What's going on with that guy? To kind of quickly summarize, because this video is getting a little long anyway, same process as the hilt, filled it in, was like, oh, this isn't working as well. But because it was a vertical print rather than split in half or horizontal, there were quite a large number of artifacts in this print. Some of them were simple problems. In my slicer, I accidentally changed profiles to a different printer, so the retractions were all wrong and I kept getting a whole bunch of zits everywhere. Others took a little bit more thought, like I had changed the voltage on both of the 2Z axes to be slightly different from each other, thinking that would help with some of my leveling issues. No, that made it worse. As well as when I sliced the model, I tried to go fast, so I had the model such that the narrow section was in the Z, and normally this wouldn't be a problem. I mean, a blade is relatively flat, relatively easy to sand and fix any problems. But because this is a ruined blade, I've got all various stepping, I've got other things that I've got to take care of and make sure they still exist. So it kind of became this, I don't think I can do this easily or in enough time. Which means that the blade in the finished product is actually the second blade that I've made. Turned out a lot nicer once you plan ahead and think about it. And I did get to play around with some colors while I was filling in the layer lines. That's where you get some of those blues, those reds, some of those really just weird green colors that I made. So it was actually really fun to see what would happen. But once we hide all those colors with a black primer, we can use some Vallejo metallic chrome to give us some of that shine and sheen of like a steel blade. I did want the chrome to be a little bit extra shiny, so I grabbed some Createx satin and just kind of did a heavy layer over that just to, make it a little bit glossy. From there we can hand paint the gold sections. These are just below the silver areas, in between that and then the actual ruined black sections. And then the last section, the black, I wanted to give it a little bit of an organic feel, like it wasn't just here's a harsh line. So I decided to use a black in the airbrush to give it some of those softer edges. Does mean I gotta be a little bit careful with overspray because that can totally ruin the whole project, but hey, I think it's worth it in the end. Finally, we can now do kind of the thing that's been scaring me the most. All of this paint that I've built up, the blade and then the hilt are both a tight fit, and now I've just added more material to them. I hope things go well. So let's see what happens.
It broke. Yep.
YouTube. So yeah, that was terrible. I had expected that I would just be scraping the paint and, okay, I have a touch up here and there, whatever. Not that. But the show must go on, so with these cracks, I was like, alright, well, I guess I gotta fill them in, repaint them, and see where it goes. Not really, so some colors weren't the exact same. I had to repaint some things, so it'll be a little different, but it's close enough. So, welcome to the end. Yeah, this project could have gone a lot better. Did learn quite a few things. First off, hot mix and polyacrylic. Do not mix. Great. Vallejo primer, while it does mix with hot mix, still sucks. Some things I didn't show but also were kind of annoying. Vallejo and Createx still don't mix. And while this project isn't, perfectly smooth, it's got some issues here and there. I mean, it is what it is. It's been really fun, I will say that. I do enjoy this. I'm glad I've done it. I'm happy it's not, your basic master sword. I mean, I'm personally more in favor of the gilded sword from Majora's Mask, but whatever. But I'm gonna end it there. So if you see something you like or you didn't like, let me know in the comments. As well as if you think this video earned it, give this video a like. And as well as if you haven't done so already, please subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.